Welcome back, shop rats. Today, here on the show, we're going to talk about the spirit of the home garage. Let's just watch the show intro. I'll see you in about 30 seconds. I'm Mike, and this is My Car Shop.
Working out of a 100-year-old refurbished barn, bringing 35 years of experience to projects considered beyond repair. Vision, creativity, and problem solving are essential tools in this place. Watch as we transform junk into polished metal miracles. This is My Cars Shop.
Channel viewer Bird's Do-It-Yourself Garage several months ago now had suggested a topic that really intrigued me, and I've been thinking about it for quite a while. And basically it's the spirit of the home garage. And there's a lot to that, and I think sometimes we kind of don't understand that mentality or that spirit, especially if we are in the profession, in one of these areas of restoration or fabrication or even as a mechanic. And we forget that, as a professional working in the industry, we have a lot of resources available that the DIY guy doesn't necessarily have. The real spirit of the home garage or the home shop is doing it yourself and finding creative ways without spending a lot of money. And we've talked about this mindset before, but we haven't necessarily used these words when it comes to it. But really the idea that we make do with what we have in order to accomplish something rather than going out and spending huge amounts of money on parts and tools and so forth. Now, we have to admit there are some things that we have to do the work that we do, but we certainly can't go out and spend the kind of money that a fabrication shop, an engine shop, or a body shop would spend on doing these projects. I think it's timely with the world the way it's heading right now, and the potential of hyperinflationism and things that are at least lurking potentially on the horizon, not being doom and gloom, I'm just saying, that resources could dry up very quickly. I mean, let's face it, this is a hobby for most of us. It's not our livelihood. We do this for fun, and most of us don't have deep pockets to go out and media blast a car and buy all new sheet metal to replace everything, and et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Now, for me, in the history of my automotive stuff, I have been very fortunate that I have worked in hot rod shops, I've worked in body shops, I've done a ton of fabricating professionally, even though I don't consider myself to be a fabricator. I can knock together a patch and fix a car for a part that's not available, stuff like that. And I've always kind of taken the attitude I'd rather be paid to learn something than pay to learn something. So I always tried to find jobs that I could do for customers where I would have to figure it out. But the reality is, to do things the way that we do them here in My Car Shop or in your shop, the reality is we could never do that professionally because very few customers could afford to pay for that. I mean, think about the floor pans on the Stitches Challenger. Now, I don't have hundreds of hours into that, but I certainly have more time into it than I would have if I had purchased a floor pan, and even if I had to modify it to make it work. So when a customer's paying my rate of $125 an hour for my shop time, which I charge that much if I was going to because I don't want to do the work, or standard body shop rate in our area, $75 to $100 an hour, or whatever it is in your area, to pay that extra 20, 30, 50, 100, 200, 500 hours to have you fabricate something that they could just go out and buy for a few $100, it just doesn't make sense. I don't think I've ever had anybody come to me and say, no, I don't want you to buy the parts for my car. I want you to fabricate everything, and I'm willing to pay out the nose because I want your hand fabricated stuff in my car. Well, that would be just crazy. And yeah, I would do it because I could probably retire by the time the job was done. And I want to be very clear that the spirit of the home garage or the DIY guy is not necessarily to do everything like dirt cheap. You have to do what's within your budget. You have to do what's within your skill set. There are a number of factors that you use to determine how you're going to do your build. And I'm not for or against any one. We're doing the Stitches Challenger all fabrication because I made the decision that I was going to do that as a fabrication project rather than buy the parts, which turned out to work out pretty well because of a financial downturn in my own income, and I would have gotten into this and then been stuck because I wouldn't have been able to continue buying the parts about a year ago. So it's all working out really well. But the Forsyth, we are going to go ahead and use replacement metal in that, and we have a way we're going to do that. We've worked all that out and so forth and so on, and you'll see that eventually. We'll just leave that as a mystery right now. So, and that's part of what I want to do is showcase different ways of doing things. When we bring the Golden Mullet to the shop here soon, the ground's drying out, and we plan to get that car back to the shop soon. We're going to do that in a completely different way again. It's going to be fabrication, but of a different kind completely than what we're doing on Stitches.
And I'll let that be a bit of a mystery for you.
The support and so forth that you guys have shown for the channel has been tremendous, and we are starting to generate a little bit of revenue with the channel. A little bit. It's a long game. You can't be in a hurry. When I decided to get on YouTube to do this channel, I knew it was going to take years before I could develop a modicum of income from it that could maybe help underwrite and support the projects on the channel. We're nowhere near that yet. But still, we're heading in that direction. And of course, we have many of you who have stepped up and been supporting, which I can't say enough of how much I appreciate all of that. But the point is, the whole spirit of the channel really is the DIY. It's the home garage spirit. We're not working with those unlimited resources. We have to work with what we have, with the tools and equipment that we have. Even though we did some upgrades in the last couple years, I purchased things like the sheet metal brake and the shrinker stretcher and the bead roller and the TIG welder as an investment in the channel and in the shop because I knew what I wanted to accomplish. I still didn't spend a ton of money, and I wanted to show what the average guy could do with just an average budget or a fairly small budget if he was willing to put in the time and learn the skills. And I think that's key when it comes to the home garage spirit, is really taking the time to develop the skill, whether it's developing the skill to modify the parts that you purchase because almost none of them fit properly right out of the box, very few, or there's a patch here that I can't even buy and we have to make that. There was I'm not picking on anybody here, it's just an example of a guy who's a parts replacer who got into a project. And again, nothing wrong with being a parts replacer, but there was a specific set of parts for his car that he couldn't buy, and he couldn't find them used. And I'm not sure what he's going to end up doing with this project because he's dead in the water right now because he doesn't know how to make it. He doesn't seem to be willing to learn how to make it, and he's scrounging to maybe try to find some used parts to fix that. Well, in my attitude, in my opinion, and again, I'm not judging anybody here. Okay, so I make that part and it sucks. So I have to make it again and it still sucks. And I have to make it 3 times before I get something that's fairly respectable, that's usable. So what? I learned a lot in the process. I've been doing this a long time. I've made a lot of parts and a lot of patches, and I'll be honest with you, a lot of them sucked. But I learned from every one as I went along and continued to develop and improve. Now, there are things that I'm still intimidated by. I'm not going to deny that. Making an external quarter panel for a 70 Challenger, probably not something that would be real doable or make any sense to do with the tools and equipment that I have. Could I do it? I got ideas on how I might. Am I willing to try it? Not at this point because I have so many other things I want to do. So it's the trade-off of my time, my skills, my resources. That's the spirit of the home garage. Element in the spirit of the home garage is staying motivated. You know, when it's your profession, you don't have any choice. You got to get to the shop, you got to get it done. The customer wants the car, right? And you're motivated by the paycheck. When it's your own car, not so much. And it's really easy to lose motivation. When I was building the Pro Street GTS, I lost motivation for years. I put the car up for sale when it was tubbed, but it didn't have any floor pans in the bag and it wasn't done. And I really had lost my motivation on that car. And I couldn't sell it, so I really felt like I didn't have any choice but to finish it. Thank God. I'm really glad that I did now, and I really enjoy the car for what it is. But staying motivated, and that's why I always say, do something, do anything. Even if it's picking a 1 foot square part of the car and taking your grinder and stripping the paint off for 10 minutes, or taking out a couple bolts, or unbolting that door, or taking out those screws, or just standing there looking at the car, thinking through how I'm going to make that or how I'm going to do this. And sometimes we've just got to get in the car and sit where the driver's seat would be and make engine noises like we're 6 years old. The whole point is we do it one bite at a time. One little bite by one little bite by one little bite. And eventually you'll look at it and you'll go, wow, I've really come a long way. That happened for me on the Challenger. I get so consumed with daily life, now work again, and trying to keep episodes going, that I don't sit back sometimes and take a look at what I've actually accomplished. I think where that really struck me recently was when I finished off that rear seat pan area on the bottom side of the car, when I had the car up on the rotisserie, and I looked at it and I went, wow, we are really making progress on this car. When I think about that Stitches Challenger that had 2 rotted out frame rails, a rotted out trunk, gas tank support, floor trunk pan support, no trunk extension, quarter panel was rotted off, inner wheel well was rotted off, and we'd hand built everything but the quarter panel itself to get to where we're at. We've come a long way, baby. We've got a long ways to go, but quite frankly now, the light is at the end of the tunnel, because if I wanted to slam that car out quick, I could buy the floor pans, throw them in, and it wouldn't take much more to just throw that car in some epoxy and start driving it. Now I'm going to finish at least in the cab area, doing those floor pans and patches by hand. I'm still honestly debating the idea of maybe buying one of those real cheap 2-piece trunk floors and throwing in, just so I can like thrust forward and get a little bit of jump on that car, because I want to get on the Forsyth Duster soon, and we got the Golden Mullet coming, and we're still doing a bunch of stuff on the Oakland, and I'd like to be getting the 47 Ford on the road this year, and Becky's really pushing me now to get her 88 Power Ram on the road, the W100 that we have. There's going to be some work coming on that real soon as well, and well, we just got a bunch of projects, and you know, maybe spending a couple $100 on those floor pans for the trunk might be the way to go, just to shoot forward a little bit more and get that car back on its wheels and start putting a drivetrain in it. I don't know. Give me your thoughts on that. Would you be disappointed if I purchased the floor pans for the trunk in that car and put those in? Would that be a compromise on everything I've done on this car up to this point? Would you prefer to see me hand fabricate those floor pans, which I still might do? Drop it down there in the comments. I'm curious on your feedback. What would you like to see on this project? All right, that's going to do it for this episode. If you haven't subscribed to the channel, please go ahead and do that. We're on the Face thing. We're over on Instagram, She Loves Us, / My Car Shop. And one more thing.
Don't forget.
It's very important.
Rock!